Recording in progress.
Good evening. We will call the special city council meeting for Monday, April 14th, 2025 to order, and we will begin with a land acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge the federally recognized Muckleshoot Indian tribe, the ancestral keepers of the lands we're gathered on today. We thank them for their immense contributions to our state and local history, culture, economy, and identity as Washingtonians. Tonight's meeting will be held both in person and virtually. If you would all please rise and join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. And Sean, will you please call roll?
Deputy Mayor Rakes.
Here.
Councilmember Ammer.
Here.
Councilmember Baldwin.
Here.
Councilmember Clinton Taylor. Here. Councilmember Tracy Taylor.
Here.
Councilmember Trent Manuel.
Here.
Thank you. All right, we are going to do audience participation this evening, and this is the place on the agenda where the public is invited to speak to the City Council on any issue. We have both in-person, remote, and written. Sean, do we have any written comments for this evening?
No, Your Honor.
Do we have anyone wanting to provide remote comment this
No,
evening?
Your Honor.
All right. We will open it up to in-person. Is there anyone in the room that would like to provide public comment this evening? Anyone that would like to provide public comment? All right, we will move on. The one item on our agenda this evening is council vacancy interviews, and we will have 6 interviews tonight, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Council, one of the candidates was unable to be here in person this evening. They are not necessarily withdrawing from the consideration, but they will not be here for an interview. Okay. Sean, I believe we have a process that we are going to follow for selecting the order.
Yes, Your Honor. I have the 6 candidates' names here. I will draw them one by one.
All right.
So the first one is Carmen Goers.
Okay.
The next one will be interview 2 will be Erica Thomas.
Okay.
Interview 3 will be Lisa Sturgis. Interview 4 will be Bill Stewart. Interview 5 will be Adib Adalal. And interview 6 is John Holman.
Wonderful. So before we get started in this evening, I just want to say to each of you and to everyone who applied for this vacancy how much we appreciate your interest and willingness to be involved in local politics and local government. I am a firm believer that most things get accomplished at the local level. We hear more about the federal level and the state level, but I do believe that the local level is where most things are accomplished. We are the ones that see our neighbors in the grocery store or at a restaurant or somewhere else, and we are the ones that they are going to seek out and talk to. So thank you for your willingness to be involved in this process. So as you heard, Sean did randomly select the order for the interviews. What we're going to ask is that if it is not your time to interview, we have a room in the back that, well, Sean, are you going to take them back there? All right. That Sean will take you into that room so that you can wait for your time. We believe that that's a fair way. These are open public meetings, so we cannot force you to stay back there. We can't force you to not be in here, but we do ask for the consideration and fairness for everyone that you do strongly consider staying in the room until your name is called. And then once your interview is complete, we would ask that you go back into that room. And obviously you don't want to talk to any of your fellow candidates about what those questions were. You don't want to give unfair advantage. Unless, Carmen, if you want to tell John what the questions are so he has the most amount of time to think about it. I'm guessing that the answer to that is going to be no. So talk amongst yourselves about anything other than the interview process. That's the only thing that we ask be off limits to you. And there is food back in that room for you as well, food and beverage, because we know that we are going to keep you here for quite a while this evening. So is that it? All right. So if everyone but Carmen would please follow Sean, she will take you to the food room. And just a reminder, these are 25-minute interviews, 5 minutes for your introductory remarks, and then 20 minutes for questioning from council. Each of you will receive the exact same questions from council, but there could be follow-up questions. So you will get the exact same questions that were submitted by council in advance. Thank you. And Carmen, you're welcome to come up to the table. And you'll be able to tell whether if your microphone is on. Oh, it is on? Okay. Oh, all right. Hi, Lisa. Sean will take you into the waiting room. There's food for you in there as well as beverages, and come on over this way. Okay. Yeah, and we ask that you not talk about the questions after the interview. Thank you.
I know some of them.
Yeah. Know all of them. Well, almost all of them.
So I have provided the candidates the questions so they can read them themselves.
Wonderful. And they're, just so you know, they are not getting the questions in advance. They will get them when they're out here, Carmen. And
I'm going to remember all these words when I go back there.
Do you prefer to be called Carmen, or is there another name you would like?
No, Carmen's fine.
All right.
One thing we didn't mention is there will be a clock here.
Yes, thank you. So the 5 minutes, and I will be paying attention to that as well to let you know when the 5 minutes are up, and then Sean will reset it for 20 minutes so that you can also see
Okay.
the 20-minute time for.
But it's still 2 minutes per answer, correct? Theoretically, approximately.
Approximately, yes. And if you answer quicker than that, there's time for more follow-up if council desires, or if they. If there are no questions and it's before the end of the 20 minutes, it would just be the end of the 20 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So 5-minute opening. It is your time to begin.
I prepared a written to make sure I can say everything concisely. I do want to say good evening and thank you, council members. I'm honored to have the opportunity to even interview for this position. My family and I are proud to call Auburn home. We moved to Washington State in 2000 after completing military service, and it was a consideration. I'm not born and raised here. I'm actually born in Michigan, raised in Southern California, and as a military family, we had the ability to travel around and see different places, and we were only stationed here for maybe 4 months. But when we decided to leave the military and where we wanted to raise our children, we decided to call South King County our home. In 2016, we made Auburn our home, and that's as we had grandchildren, and it was affordable, it was reasonable, it was in the heart of the city, and it really mirrored everything that I wanted for my children and my grandchildren. And living in Auburn, my adult children now have started 2 businesses. 2 of my 4 daughters have started their small businesses, and so it's been really a great place for us to grow and thrive as a family. You know, I wanted to mention that as someone who works in finance and community development, I firsthand see the experiences of living in Auburn. As a commercial lender, many of you know that I work with large, small, and medium businesses. I started out my financing career working with startup businesses, covering Washington and Alaska for a major financial institution. And I know the heartburn of business owners as they're working to get into the door, go through permitting process. I sat with a customer who waited 14 months for a permit coming out of King County just to put an elevator into a building that had been burned down by arson, and it stalled his business for 2 years and impacted his family and the employees around there. So I know what how policy impacts our local businesses. As a mother and grandmother with kids who have gone through the public school system, we recognize how those things impact. I love that we have DECA. I love that we have access to a plethora of opportunities, from agriculture to aerospace, from astrospace down to our I keep forgetting, our cattle farmers that we have throughout the area. And it's a great place for opportunities to continue to grow here in Auburn. The Auburn's Vitality University is a commitment to progress, and it inspired me not to just live here, but to get involved and give back, and that's why I'm here today. You know, I will bring over 20 years of experience in financial services industry with a strong focus on community and commercial banking in this market. Throughout my career, as I mentioned, I've worked with individuals, small business, and nonprofits to provide strategic financial guidance, access to capital, and tools for long-term growth. I have a strong understanding of budgets, accountability, and collaborative problem solving. I believe these are critical as we work together to balance fiscal responsibility that has a significant human impact to all Auburn residents. My expertise includes business lending, risk management, and community investment, always with a lens toward equity and economic empowerment. I've built trusted partnerships by aligning financial solutions with real-world needs, helping people and neighborhoods thrive. My work has consistently centered on bridging the gap between financial institutions and the communities we serve, ensuring that economic development is inclusive, sustainable, and impactful. Over the past 20 years, I've had the privilege of serving my community through a wide range of volunteer roles that reflect my passion for equity, youth empowerment, and community development. I've served on numerous boards. I've received commission assignments in the city of Burien, the city of Kent, and the city of Auburn. Those areas focused on education, housing, and economic opportunities, including organizations that support underserved populations and promote pathways to financial independency. That is a key core of who I am. I'm a numbers girl. I'm a wee bit of a nerd, but don't hold that against me. One of the most fulfilling roles I've had is mentoring young professionals and students, particularly those from historically underrepresented backgrounds. I volunteer with youth leadership programs, financial literacy initiatives, and workforce readiness workshops, helping to equip the next generation with the tools that they need to succeed. Seeing so many people in our community struggle to understand our financial institutions or life skills, particularly among our young people, is really disheartening for me. And I do my best to impart that wisdom and knowledge when I can and where I can. In Auburn, I've leaned into service by chairing the Human Services Committee, so I've worked with some of you in that area. I've worked to ensure that our city resources are directed toward organizations making the most significant impact, addressing everything from food insecurity to domestic violence and to mental health. And just to sum it up, as my last 5 seconds I believe I have, is I remain committed to showing up and not just volunteering, but as a listener, a connector, a champion of inclusive progress. Volunteerism isn't something I do, it's really part of who I am. And as a city council member,
We do need you to.
my goal is to help build the city with everyone else, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening.
Thank you. All right, so the first question this evening will come from Deputy Mayor Rakes.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Carmen.
Good evening.
So my question is, the 3 items that came up mostly on the application process were juvenile crime, homelessness, public safety. Other than those 3 things, what else would you like to bring forward to the council to address?
It's the transparency that we have in government. You as a council have spent a lot of time this last year really working on looking at our, I keep saying bylaws for a nonprofit, but looking at how we move and how we can be transparent. From the state, local, and federal level, I believe our citizens really want to see a transparency of government, and we've lost a little bit of our confidence. And to Mayor Box's statement earlier, we see our neighbors walking on the trails everywhere we go. We want to encourage that confidence in our government that we are really here to serve. And that's another area that I think in my involvement in my engagement community that I will continue to bring and support the City Council in doing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Next is Councilmember Baldwin.
If appointed as a council member, you would have the power to bring substantial change to Auburn. Please describe the steps you would take if you wanted to update existing Auburn City Code or policies.
Well, first, you always have to see who the policy impacts and where are the stakeholders in that. Then there's also the consideration of having data-informed decisions, knowing who it may unintentionally impact by moving one lever can create another issue. So working with staff and understanding, is this a true issue that I'm seeing? Is it something that I've just heard from 1 or 2 people? How widespread is it? And then talking to fellow council members about, does that comply with what you're hearing as well? Working together to see where we have cohesive alliance to then ask additional questions. As a commercial banker, I ask a lot of questions to gain understanding, and that's where I would begin to investigate before proposing. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next is Councilmember Tracy Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor. Carmen, city council members work as a team but may not always agree. So how do you approach collaboration with colleagues who have different views? And how would you ensure that productive conversations lead to solutions?
That's a great question. As a mother of 4 daughters that were 5 years apart, so we had 2 freshmen, a sophomore, senior in high school. Everyone's alive. No one's been arrested, detained, or have wants or warrants. We are a high communicative family. So where we don't agree, you must find what are we trying to accomplish that we have agreement on. And I often find, as I've worked under various boards and in various causes, that there's areas where we want the same end result. We want a city that thrives. How we want to get there may be different. But if we can first determine where we have alliance and where we have agreement, then it's easier to work on the harder things as we continue to move forward. And I use my children as an example because I was raised as an only child, and so I didn't learn those communication skills with siblings. And then I had to facilitate raising these children to love each other. And I am happy to say that at this point in their 30s, they're all in their 30s, they live near each other, they support each other, they babysit each other's children, the grandkids all go to the same school. And so that speaks to how we work together, even when we have disagreements. Because as many of you know, family is sometimes the hardest place to find agreement, but you can't go anywhere. Thank you.
And next is Councilmember Trout Manuel.
Mine is very short and generic. welcome, first of all.
Thank you.
For applying. Why did you decide to apply for this open seat?
Well, as many may know, I ran for state legislature 4 years ago, or 3 years ago now. I ran for Congress last year, and I've always looked to find a place to serve. And where there was opening and availability is where I step in. It's not so much about the title, because I've served without title or pay in many areas for a long time. And this is an area where it's close to home. I live, work, and play in Renton, and I want to be able to add my voice to help solve problems. I believe that I'm a good sound problem solver. I say I've been doing it since 1972. I was born in 1970, so it gave me a little bit of time to gear up. But this is where I live, and this is where I want to be. And so I want to add value where I can and when I can, and to the capacity that I can.
You live here in Auburn, not Renton.
I live here in Auburn. Did I say Renton? Yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
That must be their theme song came to my brain.
Thank you.
All right, next is Councilmember Clinton Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor. Welcome again, Carmen. And so my question is, if we were to talk to any of your past colleagues or employers, what would we expect to hear them say about you in regards to how you work with others?
Oh, it's funny. We have, I was with one organization for 17 years, and we were a complete team for the better part of 10 years. We lost a team member to undiagnosed blood pressure. She passed away, but we were a solid team for 10 years. And in that time, each of us had lost a family member, whether it was a significant other, a parent, a grandparent, and we were there for each other. And there was times where one particular colleague lost her father, and she had a large deal that was closing. And we said, go take care of that. Go take care of that. And we took care of closing it for her. We didn't ask for joint credit. We didn't ask for anything that would supplement our income, because we were a family and a team. I left that team in 2016 in July. In October, my stepfather, who I was very close to, passed away. And when I got it happened on the weekend, and that Monday morning rolled around, and I went to my old team's office, which half of them were still there. We were in the middle of a transitioning process, and I sat in my old boss's office, because that's a quiet place that I knew was a safe place. And so even to this day, those team members were still close. We lost another team member. She passed away from an illness, and we all showed up at her service in Vashon Island. We hadn't seen each other in 3 or 4 years, but we're a family that takes care of each other, and we work hard. We work hard and we play hard, but we show up because at the end of the day, we recognize that how you live and how you support each other is really a reflection of your integrity and character. And I think what you'll find outside of I do sometimes do practical jokes as a light breather, but I'm part of the family. And as we were structured, again, this is 10 years ago when I was the youngest in the room, I was the Cindy Brady in the group. And so I learned a lot from my elders, and they've now passed on, and I take it come upon myself to make sure that I pass along my wisdom and knowledge that I gained from them to others as I come along. So I believe that's what you'll hear them say. I have numbers and references if you like.
And last scripted question is from Councilmember Ammer.
Hi. Last for the best.
I know.
How would you make sure your personal opinion doesn't get in the way of what best for the whole city?
Oh, that's a lovely question. You know, I believe because I've served as board chair, I've served on many different committees, I often speak on behalf of the whole. And so I've, in committee, we put all of our ideas out there, but when it's time for me to speak as part of an organization or part of a group, I maintain that statement and that hat on. And so that's been a learned skill over 20 years of serving. And so it comes down to there's a appropriate place and time to make your statements known. And as my grandmother would say, is it time for you to say it? Is this a place for you to say it in? And and will someone receive this appropriately? So not to be combative, not to be disruptive, we want to make sure that our speech reflects the integrity of our position. Thank you.
All right. So, Council, we do have 11 and a half minutes left. If you have another question that you would like to ask, please raise your hand. Councilmember Tracy Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor. Carmen, when you're faced with a big policy decision like housing or public safety, where do you go for information, and how do you make sure that you're seeing the full picture before you cast your vote?
So I've served on the South Sound Chambers of Commerce Legislative Coalition. I've been chair, vice chair, as part of my role as the Kent Chamber of Commerce Government Affairs chair. And in doing that, you learn to reach out to people that you especially don't agree with, to hear their voices and hear what their concerns are against a bill or a particular policy. And then I love data, because data is the numbers, but there's generally context that we have to understand. And so sometimes you can have the same number and people see it from different points of view. It's important to gather that information to make to then come up with your opinion, and then have that concept filtered as you say it back to someone that's opposing you, and how does that resonate with you, or how does it not, to do that. So a good example, I think, would be when in the city of Kent, there was a conversation regarding bringing in a safe injection site. And from the business community, we were like, no, thank you. As the legislative chair, I went out to our local people that were impacted in that area, and I says, how would this impact you if you were coming through recovery? Would this be helpful? Would this be harmful? How do you see that? And every single person from various organizations, and these were with lived experience, had said, if that's here, I'm going to go big every time, and I'm not thinking about it. I don't think it's a good idea for the city based on where we've come from. And that's how I was able to form my final decision to advocate on that behalf, that it wasn't good for the business community or the residents that were in the area to serve. And that's how I go through that process.
Council, Deputy Mayor Rakes.
Thank you, Mayor. Carmen, as you know, council's considered to be a part-time job. There's times that things come up day or night other than meetings, like events, conferences, retreats. How flexible would your schedule be to accommodate any of those things?
My schedule is actually very flexible. My daytime employer, we actually have unlimited vacation time because our job, we're paid to get the job done. So whether I do that at 2 a.m. or 2 in the afternoon, there's times where I could be up late night doing a report, or I'm able to do things remotely. It's very flexible in that sense. I'm a former booster parent, and so my children all played sports, and so we pack that car and we make adjustments along the way, and we get her done. We're where we need to be when we need to be there, or we communicate otherwise.
Other questions, Council?
And I'll add to that is my schedule, my family, we have 4 generations that live here, and so generally there's capacity. In my campaign for the 8th Congressional District, it's over 7,000 square miles, and so I was working in Tacoma, and I went to an evening event in Ellensburg, and I popped over to Wenatchee the next morning, then came back for a 11 o'clock brunch with a client. So it's just about having the resiliency.
Councilmember Trout Manuel.
Carmen, as council, we also belong to different organizations, and sometimes we have to go out of town for traveling. Will you have any problems being able to take a week off or something like that?
No, I have laptop will travel, and I'm an empty nester. They live near me, but not with me. Praise the Lord.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions, Council? No? All right. Well, Carmen, you managed to accomplish all of that in under 20 minutes.
I like to be brilliant and brief.
There you go. Do you have any final comments that you would like to share with the council?
I would really like to say that this is a great opportunity. I appreciate that you're at a time where there's a lot of different things coming to the slate, including municipal services and how we can move that forward. Having worked in volunteered in human services, I think it's a great opportunity for us to have a really transformative add to our juvenile justice or to our justice system, and I look forward to being a part of that. I will continue to serve in this city, and I appreciate your consideration. And if you have any questions, you definitely will see me around. I will do that. And I will let you have a brief moment of your life back to breathe between the next ones, as we have a long night ahead of us.
Thank you very much, Carmen.
Thank you.
Leave this here. Right?
Yeah, you can leave the question sheet there. Thank you. Council, would you like a few minutes before the next interview? Do you need a few minutes? No? All right. Okay. I know. I know. When we know better, we do better. When we know better, we do better, council members. Hi, Erica. Let you get settled. I believe it is. Yeah, if you see the little red. There, now it's
there.
on.
Now it's red. Now
it's red. Now you know
the
it's
world
on.
can hear me.
The world can hear.
Excellent.
So, Erica, you have 5 minutes.
Yes.
To introduce yourself, introductory statements, and then if you don't use all that time, we'll just go to the 20 minutes for Q&A.
Great.
And if you complete all the 6 questions that the council members have, then it can be open Q&A. And then if you have any final statements, if there's any time left, we'll allow that as well.
Sounds great.
All right. So you will be able to see the clock right there if you want to look over. If not, I will wave to you at maybe a minute mark.
Okay.
And then I'll go like that when the time is up.
Sounds great.
All right. Please begin.
Well, thank you all for inviting me here today. My name is Erica Thomas, just in case you were confused on the pronunciation. I have lived here in Auburn for 5 years now. My spouse and I moved down here in 2020 when we were looking for our forever home. We wanted a place where we could settle in, be here for many years to come, hopefully be able to have and raise children, and get integrated with the community around us. So after having a chance to settle in, get over the work in our COVID response jobs, I started looking for some sort of opportunity to be involved with the city of Auburn. Now, my background is in health and public service. I've worked at the State Department of Health now for 7 years as a researcher and an epidemiologist. So my job is data analysis, program evaluation, monitoring, making sure what we're doing is effective. That started with working in the WIC and the SNAP and SNAP-Ed programs, and now I currently work in programs that focus on child safety and in getting cervical, breast, and colon cancer screenings out to people who are uninsured, low income, or have extremely high deductibles. So with this background in working with communities who are disadvantaged, who are low income, I wanted to do something that would be able to keep up that work, but do it at a local level, somewhere close to me, which is what led me to the Human Services Committee here in Auburn. I joined in 2021 and got to participate in that first grant cycle, learned so much about what is happening in our community here in Auburn, and really what it takes to be a good steward of the funds of this city. We want to make sure we are doing things that will help as many people as possible use our money in a way that is wise and in a way that is going to be impactful. Which I feel like we've done a pretty good job of. You all, of course, see our recommendations every year. I've also had the opportunity to be the chair of that board, of that committee for 2 years in 2023 and 2024. I did have to take a brief leave of absence last summer when my baby was born, but you know, it happens. Carmen very graciously filled in for me during those few months I was on leave. But it is this background from the Human Services Committee, as well as in my work at the state level, that really made me want to apply for this position on the City Council, because I have a very strong conviction that while the programs we offer do a good job of helping people in the short term, it is really policy that's going to make the biggest impacts in the long term. Having good, thoughtful policy is what's going to shore up the structures, the systems that lead people into crises, into poverty, into losing their jobs, those kind of things. And that is what I want to be able to join you all here on council and addressing, looking at things like how can we increase the amount of affordable housing so people aren't put out on the street and in need of our help to get rehoused or in terms of rental assistance. What can we do to make sure good jobs, good union jobs, good paying jobs are brought to the city so people can afford to have families and to have a home? What can we do to help make transit easier so that people can get to the places they need to go, whether it's work, leisure, going to our parks, maybe going to the grocery store. So that is what I would like to be able to do on council and what I'm hoping I can join you all as part of this group.
All right. Perfect. All right. So Erica will begin with the questioning. There we go. Sean has the clock reset for you. And we will begin with Deputy Mayor Rakes.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for applying, Erica. The three major items that came up on the application process were juvenile crime, homelessness, and public safety. Other than those three, which we all know is important, what else would you like to bring forward to the council?
Well, I know one of the things council is looking at is density and increased housing, and I think doing that, being able to address housing is going to be one of the things that will actually help, at least with the homelessness and probably with public safety. If you have people in a safe, stable place, they're going to be able to stay off the streets. You won't have to deal with obvious signs of poverty out on the street, such as homelessness. So looking at how we can increase density and also make sure that we have affordable housing in the area. Also looking at what we can do to provide positive places for youth to engage in. Is something that would be really important, and just positive community spaces. I know something that came up a lot in the community conversations around Auburn was the need for those connecting spaces. So where can people go to meet with their neighbors, have a positive experience, go and have a nice night out or just a day out. So looking at what we can do as a city to make those more available to our neighbors, and totally lost my train of thought there. What sort of things can help bring community together in that way is something that I would really be interested in. Something else that I find really important, especially as our city is growing and with Federal Way getting their light rail in, is looking at mass transit and transit options in the city. Especially because we've got older neighborhoods that have a lot of narrow roads. And as we're increasing density, that's just going to be more backup on the roads. I know I live at the bottom of Leah Hill, and that is not the best place to try and be at 5 o'clock in the evening. So what can we do to address those transit concerns, make it so people maybe don't have to rely on cars as much? I would love if I could just take a bus or a train somewhere every day and I didn't have to drive, but that's not really possible in our little suburban spot where we live right now.
Thank you.
Next is Councilmember Baldwin.
Thank you, Mayor. And my question is, if appointed as a council member, you will have the power to bring substantial change to Auburn. Please describe the steps you would take if you wanted to update existing existing Auburn City Code or policies.
Yes, well, something I have learned is if there's an existing policy or code, someone put it there for some reason. So it's usually a good idea to get the background on what was the reason for bringing that code into place in the first place, or looking at what caused that policy to happen. And then typically, most problems are not new. So at least from my experience in work, doing a little bit of research to see if other cities, other municipalities have had issues like this, or have made code changes, how have they done it? What are the ways that they looked into it? We don't need to reinvent the wheel a lot of the time. Usually there's someone else who's done something similar. And then figure out how to adapt that in a way that is acceptable for our circumstances, or that's going to meet the circumstances for us here in Auburn. So usually a little bit of background research, I think, would be the way to start, being able to rely hopefully on some of our city clerks, because I know they probably know a lot more about the history of some of these city codes and city policies than I ever would. And then, bring it up to the rest of my council members to discuss, okay, this is what I've learned, this is what I've seen. Let's see how we can possibly change this to make it better for the whole city here.
Councilmember Tracy Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor. Erica, city council members work as a team but may not always agree. How do you approach collaboration with colleagues who have different views? And how would you ensure productive conversations lead to solutions?
Yeah, this is something I have a lot of experience with as a facilitator, is trying to bring people who maybe are working towards a similar goal but have very different mindsets on how it should be done. And I think especially here at City Council, all of our goal is to make Auburn the best possible place it is to live for everyone. And as long as we keep that goal in mind, that can be a guiding point to getting people to a point of compromise. So sometimes it takes having one-on-one conversations with someone, being able to pull someone aside to figure out what's going on, because a lot of time when you're in a group discussion, things just get heated and you pick sides. So being able to say, hey, is there any chance we can talk about this, maybe one-on-one a little bit later? Also trying to understand where the other person's viewpoint is coming from, even if I don't necessarily agree with their viewpoint, if I can understand what led them to that view, that sometimes can help with facilitating a conversation. It's like, oh, okay, you think this because, or this is your view because of your experience in this. Okay, well, I know where that, I know a little bit about that experience, but this is how I'm approaching it. And sometimes if you can find that common background or that thing that sort of led people to their different experiences, it makes it a little easier to bridge the gaps or have a productive conversation. And most of all, I think it's about not just burrowing down into your little I'm right and you're wrong hole. Everyone's always going to have different opinions on things, but the important thing is that we are doing what is best for the city overall. Yep.
Councilmember Trout Manuel.
Hi.
Your microphone, please.
Welcome. Mine's very short. Why did you decide to apply for this open seat?
Well, honestly, I was already thinking about possibly running for city council this year. I'd known, unfortunately, that Larry Brown was unlikely to be running this year after his stroke. So I'd already been looking into the possibility of running. Like I said, I have a strong interest in the policy side of things and how to enact good policy for the city, and I wanted to make sure I had a voice in, or at least the opportunity to have a voice in the direction Auburn was going in the future. So when I saw this vacancy come up, I said this is a great opportunity to at least get a brief experience before I consider actually trying to run for the position.
Thank you.
Councilmember Clinton Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor. Welcome, Erica. If we were to talk to any of your past colleagues or employers, what could we expect to hear them say about you in regards to how you work with others?
I know that you would hear, honestly, just a lot of thoughtful praise about how I do that kind of work. As I said, I have a lot of experience with facilitation, and a lot of that has come from my work. I do a lot of things that involve meeting with community members, with local health jurisdictions, with representatives from other agencies, and some bringing people to the table. And I feel and I know that I am a very good communicator and that I am able to really talk to people at whatever level they're at, especially with the work that I do a lot around data and data analysis. One compliment I've received consistently is that I am very good at explaining data in a way that is understandable to people at every level, even if they're not numbers people, which I know is something. Most people aren't nerds who enjoy spending time with spreadsheets and doing math in their head. That is a unique. Yeah, no, that's me. That's my thing. My spouse always gives me any sort of things, sign the credit card, do the tip and everything. So, yeah, I know you would only hear that I am really good at working with others, even when we may be coming from different places. I stay very calm and cool in conversations, and I always try to work people to a common place. And I know that's what my supervisors and my colleagues would tell you as well.
Thank you. And Councilmember Ammer.
Hi, Erica.
Hi.
My question, how would you make sure your personal opinion doesn't get in the way of what the best of the whole city?
Yeah, this is an aspect where I know being able to listen is an important part, and I will freely admit sometimes I get very like, no, I know what's right, and sometimes it takes a moment to sit back and really listen to what other people are saying, and especially when I am very certain of something or I have an opinion that this is the right way to do things. that's when I've found it is most important to sit back and shut my mouth for a moment and let other people talk. Because if I keep saying the same thing that I know I'm right, or I know that this is the way to do things, I'm not going to be learning or listening to other opinions around me, and I'm not going to have a chance to really think and consider. So, yeah, taking the moment to stop to think is, I think, the most important way to make sure my own personal opinions don't get in the way of the work that needs to be done.
All right, those are the 6 scripted questions. Now we have time for additional Q&A. Councilmember Tracy Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor. Erica, what do you believe is the role of a city council member, and how do you see that role fitting in with the overall structure of city government, particularly with the mayor and city staff?
Yes, well, I know here in Auburn we have, as it says on our website, a strong mayoral government. So obviously, Mayor Backus is the leader, the one who sort of sets the final decision on everything. But as city council, it seems that a lot of what you all do, and what I hope to join you in doing, is setting a direction and setting up the guideposts for where we want things to go. So bringing forward policies and voting on what we think would be best for the city, with the help of what is given to us by all of our different hardworking members, people who work here at the city, the different advisors who come in. So it's about helping to set the guide for how we're going to be moving forward as a city, most of all, and then hoping Mayor Backus actually agrees with us.
Other questions, Council? Councilmember Baldwin.
Thank you, Mayor. If you are appointed as a council member, you would be responsible for activities like approving and rejecting ordinances and resolutions. Please walk us through the process for how you would evaluate proposed legislation in order to vote on it.
Yes. Obviously, most important thing with all legislation, and I do this frequently at the state level, reading through everything first. And then what I frequently do is I sort of highlight out the things where I'm like, I have no idea what this means, which is, I'm not so sure at the city level, but I know at least at the state level, when things are sent to me for policy analysis, there's oftentimes I'm like, I have no idea what this means. I'm not a lawyer. And then finding out who my point person is to get clarification on things. Oftentimes that's a subject matter expert. Sometimes it's one of the attorneys. I am in frequent contact with one of the members of the AGO's office on certain legislation, because there's certain things that I'm like, I have no idea what this means or if it's even legal. So doing that sort of analysis to get people to explain what is happening to me first, and then thinking about what this means for long-term impacts is, I think, the most important part of evaluating any sort of legislation. So not just what is this going to do right now, but what is this going to mean in the long term? Because it's very easy to put forward some policy that looks like a good idea now, but it is actually going to end up hampering results or hampering ability to do other things later. So wanting to do that double check to see, is this going to cause problems with other things we want to do around the city?
Other questions, Council? Deputy Mayor Rakes, and then we'll go to
Thank you. Council is considered to be a part-time job. There are times that things come up day or night other than just meetings. The council meetings, events, conferences, retreat. How flexible would your schedule be to accommodate those things?
I mean, I do work full-time, so I would need at least some advance notice to do anything that would involve travel or missing a day of work. Usually within 2 weeks, my supervisors are pretty flexible with that in terms of evening or weekend commitments. Pretty flexible, especially, not going to lie, part of the problems right now is getting a babysitter because I do have a 9-month-old at home. So she's able to join me on some things, but other things, it's like, I don't know if we really want a baby underfoot at this point. So, but I do pretty well with making that, especially when there are hybrid options for things. I've been able to stay very active in, for example, in like my local union and taking part in their leadership, because they've allowed me to do a lot of hybrid options so I can Zoom call into things and join in that way.
Thank you.
Councilmember Tracy Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor. Erica, as a council member, how would you balance listening to your constituents with sticking to the long-term goals and vision of our city?
Yeah, I do think it's very important to listen to people, especially because, and this is something I know from a lot of the work I do, especially with qualitative research, is that a lot of times people just want to know that they're listened to or know that someone is actually hearing their concerns. But it's also very important to not just tokenize that. I've found people are very aware when you are just being like, oh, of course, thank you so much for telling me that, and you completely ignore what they say. So in that case, I think it's very important to listen to people and then when you're making a decision, especially if it goes against something that constituents have asked of you, explain why that is the case. Because oftentimes there may be a decision that council needs to make that may not be immediately popular. You know, maybe we need to widen a street, but it's going to get into, people, or that means taking people's yards or like changing the traffic patterns in there, and people aren't going to like that. But it is ultimately for the betterment of Auburn in the long run, because it means there's going to be better flow of things moving around. There's going to be space for sidewalks so people can actually move safely, that kind of thing. So always want to give people a chance to be heard. And if I'm not doing exactly what they asked, make sure they understand why, and not that I'm just ignoring them, but that there was a good reason to not follow through with what they may have asked.
Other questions, council? Well, Erica, there are 4 minutes and a little over 20 seconds left. If you have any final thoughts you would care to share?
I don't. I really appreciate you all selecting my application and giving me this opportunity to interview with you. And I know you've got a long night ahead of you without having pizza in front of you. So best of luck, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Erica.
Thank you.
Please don't talk about the candidates. Yeah, I know. But you just did. Yeah, that really is not something that you can consider, so please don't.
Hello.
Good evening, Lisa. So process this evening is going to be that you get 5 minutes for introductory remarks.
Okay.
And when you're finished with that, and if you're close to the 5 minute mark, at 4 minutes, I'll let you know with one finger up in the air, just this finger.
Okay.
That
Not the other one.
not the other
Okay,
one.
good.
That you have
That wouldn't
1
be a
minute
good one.
left.
Okay.
And then if you have gone to the 5 minutes, I'll go like this and close, so that you have an opportunity to close. And then we'll move to 20 minutes of questioning.
Okay.
And each council member has one prepared question. And so at the end of that time, if there's time left, it will be open for them to ask additional questions. And then if there's time left after that, you will have an opportunity for wrap-up comments. Okay?
Thank you so much.
And the clock will be working over here, so you'll see the 5 minutes, and then at the beginning of the 20 minutes, it will be changed to 20. So if you're ever wondering, you can always look over and see how much time you have left.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you.
Please begin when you're ready.
Okay. So I've prepared notes because I'm a horrible interviewer. And so I want to make sure I'm able to cover the important things that I think that each of you should hear from me. So first off, thank you so much. This is such an honor to be here. And I am just the 12-year-old me would have never thought this was possible. So thank you. So
I'm Lisa Sturgis, and Auburn's been our home since 2018. And my husband and I bought a house here. I will tell you, it was completely random. We told our realtor we needed something in between Seattle and Lakewood. And I did not want to be on the Federal Way side of traffic, because the west side of I-5 was like not even worth cutting down the commute from West Seattle. And so we picked like a little dot on the map that was in between the 167, the 18, and the I-5. And our realtor took us to our home, and it became our home. And since then, my husband ended up randomly getting a job a mile down the street from our home, and got very involved in Auburn. I was working in Lakewood and very involved in Tacoma and Seattle. With that, I got to be a wife of someone who cared deeply about Auburn. This was 6 years ago. And fast forward, it was a city that is now home to us, and something that I cared very deeply about. And I've been the +1 at all of the Auburn Chamber of Commerce events, listening to my husband talk about the progress and the issues with the Police Advisory Committee that he's served on for the last 5 years. Also listening to him share with me the progress and the lack of progress with the Auburn Public School Foundation Board that he sits on. And then I, live in Auburn, and most recently have worked in Auburn the last year at a nonprofit. And so it's our life. As some of you know, I ran for city council 2 years ago. I've never done anything in politics before, but I'm a community member that drives up and down Peaslee Canyon, and was wondering why, it just keeps looking worse and worse. And my daughter was feeling deflated as a millennial, wondering, what can we do to make a difference, Mom? And I'm like, it starts in your home, it starts in your neighborhood, it starts in your city. And so I thought, you know what, it starts in our city. And the only way to make a difference is to show up and try to help be an advocate to make your city better. And my hairdresser, who owns a small business here in Auburn, motivated me because she was having some challenges as a business owner. And so I ran for city council because I thought, gosh, this needs to be better. And community members like us who really care need to just stand up and try to help. And so I did lose by 309 votes. Cheryl, won. But it was a huge learning experience for me. And it was an opportunity for me to learn how to advocate as a community member. I feel that my lived experiences, I have a wide variety of background, from being a teenage mom to getting payday loans and not being able to pay them off in time, to having a 454 credit score, to then being an executive in banking. I've lived a life that can relate with a lot of community members here in Auburn. And I'm a listener, and I'm a team player, and I want to be a part of helping to make it better.
Thank you. All right, we'll go to the, scripted questions right now. And first will be Deputy Mayor Rakes.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, welcome, Lisa.
Thank you.
The question I have for you is the 3 major items that came up on the application process were juvenile crime, homelessness, public safety. Other than those 3 things, what would you bring forward to council to address?
So other than those 3 things, what would I bring forward to council to address? Mm-hmm. Okay. So my 3 priorities are public safety, which includes homelessness, but support of police and fire. Also, clean, well-maintained public spaces. That's what I put on my application. And then support of small businesses.
And so, although I'm super passionate about helping juveniles to ensure that they're not in the criminal system, I sit on the King County Youth or Children and Youth Advisory board, and I am co-chair of the Youth Justice Subcommittee, which is the primary mission is helping to stop the school to prison pipeline. So I'm very passionate about that topic. But in addition to that, to me, helping small business owners, and I come from banking, so when I say small business, I don't mean to discount business owners. Just anything under $1 billion is typically a small business. But I know that's not what some small business owners like to think of. But I think that for me, I'm very passionate about bringing business here to Auburn, figuring out how we work with our existing business owners to look at the tax structure to help them see the ROI on the taxes that they pay, so that they're excited to be business owners here. But then also how we as council really work with enticing new entrepreneurs and businesses to want to come to Auburn. It's something that I come from a family of small business owners, and so I'm very passionate about bringing business here. And in addition to those topics, I think that all of us as community members, we should be able to drive down the streets and feel that, we're proud about the city that we live in because it's clean and well maintained. And so I agree with the 3 topics, but in addition to, I think business and economic development is probably the key thing that would be in addition to that for me.
Thank you.
And Lisa, do you have a copy of the questions in front of you?
I do. Thank you.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that you had those as well.
Thank you.
Next is Councilmember Baldwin.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Welcome. If appointed as a council member, you would have the power to bring substantial change to Auburn. Please describe the steps you would take if you wanted to update existing Auburn City Code or policies.
Well, as a new council member, I think there's a lot of learning. But I also heard feedback from you all last week as you were selecting the candidates, that there was some advantage to, folks that have applied that have prior city council experience. So I'm a fast learner. I wanted to disclose that. But I think that it's important because in order to update code or policies, you need to know what's currently working well and what's currently not working well. And so I think my role as a new city council member would be to, with a sense of urgency, work to quickly learn. And I read through, I have the entire procedure of the city council on how you would meet with directors of each of the areas. And then how you would meet with fellow council members to be able to quickly learn what is and what isn't working, and to identify what current, committees are in place. I'm aware of some committees, but I don't think I'm aware of all of the working committees. I sit on the salary commission, but that's just once a year we meet to talk about the salary for the mayor and city council. But I know that there are a lot of working groups. And so for me as a new council member, it would be, what can I do to quickly be able to be curious to learn what is working, what isn't. Really look at the long-term strategic plan to see what's in play already, what still needs to be done, and then be able to, from that point, figure out what are the key things that need to be addressed. And I'm a learner. I like to observe, but I'm also someone who likes to get stuff done. And so as I'm seeing or as I'm learning, as I'm asking questions, then I'm taking note of, this is something that we could really make sure to implement or move. And I've learned throughout my career that nothing gets done with just me. It's because I've had amazing teams that I've worked with. And so I view my role in city council that I get to be a part of an amazing team that we all get to dialogue and discuss what's working and what's not to try to move things forward for positive change.
Next is Councilmember Tracy Taylor.
Lisa, thank you so much for being here. City council members work as a team, but may not always agree. So how do you approach collaboration with colleagues who have different views, and how would you ensure productive conversations lead to solutions?
Well, that's been my whole career, is healthy conflict. And so I actually think people not agreeing is super healthy. And I am very passionate about my life's journey has been, I love to learn everyone's perspectives. And I love when people have varying perspectives. And so I like to listen. I like to hear, why are you thinking that way? Why do you think that way? And then, not that it's going to change my point of view, but it is going to broaden my perspective so that I can make sure that when I'm making a decision, I am an empath by nature. And so it allows me to have empathy for, I can see where they're coming from. And I can take that into consideration when making a decision. And when I look at the role of City Council, it says we are a representative for the people who live in the city of Auburn. And so for me to be a representative, it means I need to understand what most of the people think, which means being super curious. And then I need to come work with a group of other folks who, by the way, I don't think everyone knows how hard it is to run for city council, but it's a lot, and it means you really care about your city, just saying. So you come to work with a group of folks that have signed up for a reason that they want to show up and try to make their city better. And so with that, you are bringing perspective with you, but then you're learning about these other 6 folks plus you have their own perspectives in what they feel their role and responsibility is to show up for the good of the city. And you need to be able to listen. And what I've learned in my career, I thank Wells Fargo for this to this day, is the leadership training that I've been able to get through my 15-year career there was emotional intelligence training around yes and there are multiple correct ways. Both can be right. And so for me, I think it's a matter of not having ego, and it's a matter of listening to what each of my fellow colleagues think, and then us coming to a decision of what's the best for the most. Yeah.
And next is Councilmember Trout Manuel.
Hi, Lisa, and welcome.
Your microphone, please.
Oh.
Hi, Lisa, and welcome. Mine is very short and plain. Why did you decide to run for this open seat?
So I decided to run for city council 2 years ago. I have not known a lot about politics. I grew up knowing that you vote for the president, but I honestly never voted locally until probably about 6 years ago. And I never knew the importance. And when I became a homeowner here, I quickly learned why you want to vote local politics. And so when I did that, I was taking a year off of banking after a 23-year career, figuring out what do I want to do next, because I was burnt out. And some folks my husband's on the Auburn Chamber of Commerce, and they had said, hey, there's an open seat, you should apply. And he was like, heck no, I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. And I was like, well, I think I want to. I want to go. I want to help our city be better. And it was literally after, I have a huge heart for small business. My necklace right here is my grandma Gigi and my grandpa. They were small business owners. And I saw the struggle of being a small business owner. And my hairdresser here, literally, she was cleaning up needles out front of her door. And it was frustrating. And she was pissed off because she was paying a B&O tax and she couldn't get police to respond when she had someone ODing in front of her business. And I thought, gosh, I know the city of Auburn doesn't want that happening. And so where's the disconnect? And so I reached out and started having some conversations and connected her and was like, there's got to be a better way here. I know the police care. My husband's on the police advisory committee. They care about responding to this. Where's the disconnect? And so that's what really fueled my desire to run, because she wanted to close her business. And I was like, no, don't leave Auburn. Selfishly, because she's amazing and you know how hard it is to find a hairdresser. Yeah. But seriously, I mean, you don't understand that, Clinton, but the women do understand. But that was a big deal for me, was I didn't want her to look at relocating her business to Sumner, because I knew that if you water your grass here, you can make it grow. Looking somewhere else, it's not always the solution. And that's what truly made me want to run. I told my daughter, again, that, you can't, it is overwhelming when you look at it nationwide. But when you look at your home, your neighborhood, your community, you can make a difference. And that's where I thought, I can make a difference. I have zero political ambitions. I don't want to go be a congressperson or a senator or anything outside of Auburn City Council. I just want to be a part of the city that I live in and that's home for us. And I want to be able to help make it better with a team of people that I would be excited to work with.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next is Councilmember Clinton Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Lisa. If we were to talk with any of your past colleagues or employers, what could we expect to hear them say about you in regards to how you work with others?
So this one's uncomfortable for me because my whole career, I hate talking about me. And I've learned, I was with Wells Fargo for 15 years, and then I had to go apply for a new job. And that was, so it was most of my adult career. And I got feedback in my interview that because I said we too much, that they weren't sure quite what I did. And so now in the last 4 years and as an executive, I've learned to say I, but it is so uncomfortable for me. Because to me, I look at everything as we do as a team. And so I preface that because when I ask one of my bosses, that's taught me the most in my career, has taught me to be consciously competent. And it is, what do you do that makes a difference so you can repeat it and do it more often when it's needed? And so I am very passionate about being consciously competent about my strengths, even though it's uncomfortable to talk about it in that lens. So I ask team members who've worked for me. And I have a huge belief of, I don't know if you've seen the show Undercover Boss, but I don't think a CEO should have to dress up in a costume in order to get real feedback from their team. I think their team should feel safe enough to give them feedback in their own dress. And unfortunately, corporate America, today's society, you're scared to tell your boss what's really happening because you don't want to get in trouble. And so I feel very confident when I ask for feedback from my team that I'm getting honest feedback, because I've created an environment where people can share with me the truth and there's never repercussions. And so the feedback that I get, I'm confident in saying that people say I inspire them. I make them believe in a bigger cause. I help them see what they're capable of doing when they didn't even know what was possible. I listen to them and really care about what they're going through. And then I have a nickname that is called Pitbull with a Smile. And I'll disclose that is that I'm relentless, but I have so much heart. And so I am willing to lean in, and I've had to fire 2 of my best friends in my career, and we are best friends to this day. And it's because I'm able to look at you in the eyes and tell you the truth, my truth, and then also listen to your truth and then come to an agreement. But have heart, never leave the equation. And so when I say what would my team say about me is that they've had a leader who truly cares about them, who's willing to tell them the truth even when it's uncomfortable, and who's also willing to be by their side and help push them to become the best version that they can, but inspire them to something bigger and better that they could never have seen on their own.
Okay, one final question, and we have just about 3 minutes, 45 seconds left. Councilmember Ammer.
Hi, Lisa. My question, how would you make sure your personal opinion doesn't get in the way of what's best for the whole city?
Yeah, so my opinion doesn't matter. When you sign up as a council member, one of the things as a leader that, my team of VPs at Harborstone, I would say, go back to their interview notes and remind them of what they interviewed for. And that would be my advice for myself is you interviewed to become a council member, which means it doesn't matter what your opinion is. It means you are wanting to be a representative of the community that lives in Auburn. And so your goal is to learn what the majority of the people, I don't think we can make everybody happy, but what do the majority of the people in the city of Auburn need and want? And do you care about that? And then how do you make decisions based on that? And so, yeah, I'm going to have my opinion, and I'm going to drive up Peaslee Canyon. I'm going to be pissed off that there's a bunch of trash on the side, and I'm like, why can't we get that cleaned up? But is that going to be the priority? No. It's going to be what we as a council are working on based on what the majority of the people in the city of Auburn who are paying taxes to live here, who want this to be home, care about. And I think it's, again, going back to ego, I have pride. I do not have ego. I have pride in making sure that we're the best freaking city in Washington. But I do not have ego in any agenda for myself. I want to know what all of us care about, what we're working on, and what the city says we need to work on, and then how do we be change agents to move that forward. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, we have a minute, 50 seconds left. Council, do you have any follow-up questions that you would like to ask? All right, well, Lisa, you've got a minute 41 left. If you would like some, ending remarks.
My closing statement.
Yes.
Is I have spent my life listening, learning, and leading, and but also watching. And over the past 2 years, I've seen council shift. I was super excited to be able to be part of an opportunity where I saw 3 brand new council members come in, and that was a big shift for our city. And it was our city saying we want change. And then to see the evolution over the last 2 years of the council working together has been something that I'm really excited I got to be a part of, witnessing. And I think that I can be a piece that is the person who comes in, and maybe I don't have prior experience as a council member like the other applicants do. However, I know that I'm able to come in and be a team player from day one. And so and I'm a quick learner. And so I think that I can be that piece that comes in and really fits the dynamic of the group. I understand all of your different personalities. I think that it's so important that council works together to support the mayor in running the city and is able to move progress forward. And I think that my personality allows for teamwork, and it allows for getting stuff done, not worrying about the minutia, using data to, I love you, Kate, because you always talk about data. People, I'm, a touchy-feely person, and so people don't give me credit that I love data, but I do.
And
so
we have come to the end of time, Lisa. All right. Thank you very much.
I knew I was going to exceed my time. It's just the story of my life.
And if you want to just leave the questions there.
Yes.
for the next candidates.
Thank you. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Welcome, Bill.
Hi, how are you guys?
Good, thank you. So tonight's process, as we said at the beginning, there will be 5 minutes for you to provide opening comments. And then if you use the entire 5 minutes, I'll let you know when you're at 4 minutes, holding up one finger. And then at the end of the 5 minutes, I'll go like that. And then we'll move to 20 minutes of Q&A, and the first 6 questions, council members had submitted questions in advance, and so those are the scripted questions that you now have in front of you. And then if there's any time left, we will do other questions, open questions, and then if there's time left at that point, you have an opportunity for closing remarks as well.
All right. Thank
Sound
you.
good?
Sounds great.
All right. So whenever you'd like to start your 5 minutes, you are free to do so.
All right. Well, first of all, I just want to start by saying thank you to all of you for everything you do for the city. I know that your jobs are big jobs, and as a citizen, I really appreciate it. Secondly, I want to say I'm very humbled to be included in the list of people that you're talking to today, and I'm very excited to be here. Tonight I would try and tell you a little bit about who I am, what I think I bring to the table, and why I want to join the Auburn City Council. So I'm a resident of Lee Hill and the co-owner, along with my husband, of what we believe is the only full-service plant nursery in Auburn. And I am also involved in the community. I love Auburn, and I really believe in its future. So a little bit of my background. I'm the son of an immigrant and of an career Air Force pilot. I grew up in a small town in Texas, a mostly Hispanic working class town. My family didn't have a lot of money, and money was always a concern, as it is for a lot of people these days. So I remember what that was like. I went on from San Marcos, Texas, to get a bachelor's degree at the University of Texas in accounting. And later I got a master's degree at the Wharton School. And after that, I really focused on my business career. I lived all over the United States, worked for companies like Coca-Cola and Levi Strauss, and finished my career in Silicon Valley, working for startups like Sunrun and Credit Karma. We moved to Auburn in 2021, following 2 wildfires that nearly burned our home in Sonoma County. So I'm a climate refugee. And I know firsthand the effects of climate change. We chose Washington after a lot of research because we felt like it was better positioned to combat climate change, although it's going to be a challenge everywhere, and because I'd always loved it here. I'd made many trips here over the years, and it was one of my favorite places. As soon as we moved here, I retired from my business career, and I really wanted to focus on getting involved in the community. So I've done a lot of volunteering since I moved here, working primarily with LGBTQ youth and also with animal rescue. Along with that, I joined the Auburn Planning Commission, which has been a wonderful learning experience, and I also attended Civics Academy. I'm here today because I really love Auburn. And I think that this is a place with amazing diversity of race, of religion, of economic status, and more. And I'd like to help preserve that while helping Auburn move into a brighter future. In my application, I talked about 3 areas that I know I'd like to focus on, but I will also say I have a lot to learn, and I would definitely want to work hard to learn from constituents, from all of you, on what would help to make the most difference in Auburn. But three things that I am very concerned with. One is the cost of living in Auburn. So on the Planning Commission, I've helped to work to increase density of housing to help make housing more affordable, so more families can buy houses and start building wealth, and also so that just to keep rents down, to keep costs down in general. I think that is a great way to grow, but I think we also need to really focus on transit and on making sure that we do that really smartly. I also know we're going to develop the quarry in the next few years, or that will be developed, and I'd love to have a hand in figuring out how that could best be developed to make it pedestrian friendly and to really be a model. Secondly, I'd love to do more to revitalize downtown Auburn. Okay, thank you. I think that there's a lot that we can learn from other communities. Thirdly, in Civics Academy, I learned about the challenges that the police department faces right now, and I'd like to help figure out ways to increase the number of officers while also increasing diversity. So what I think I bring to the position is, first of all, a passion for Auburn, but also from my business career, I have a lot of skills in budgeting, in data analytics, in strategy, and in communications, and more. And as a small business owner, I know a lot about the challenges of doing business in Auburn. So thank you so much for considering me, and I'm eager to take your questions.
Thank you, Bill. We will begin as soon as we'll let Sean get everything reset over there. There we go. Excellent. Thank you, Sean. We will begin with Deputy Mayor Rakes.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you for coming tonight. The three major items that came up in the application process were juvenile crime, homelessness, and public safety. Other than those three, what would you like to bring forward to council to address?
Well, I definitely think those three things are very important, and so I definitely think we should focus on those. But in addition, the other things that I mentioned, the revitalization of downtown, I think there's a lot we could learn from places like Enumclaw about how they've been able to establish a really thriving downtown, and there's a big opportunity with the new theater coming online soon to really make a push for that. And then the other thing that I already mentioned is the cost of housing, and to try and make sure that we plan for a future where everybody has a chance to live here.
Thank you.
Next is Councilmember Baldwin.
Thank you, Mayor. And my question is, if appointed as a council member, you would have the power to bring substantial change to Auburn. Please describe the steps you would take if you wanted to update existing Auburn City Code or policies.
Well, I think the first step I'd want to do is figure out what I wanted to change. So to do that, I would look into the things I've already talked, but also talk to a lot of people. So I'd like to talk to the Chamber of Commerce, to clubs like the Lions and the Optimists, et cetera. Also to other civic leaders in centers of worship and things like that, to understand what we really need. And then I'd have to learn the best way to move legislation forward. I don't come knowing that.
Councilmember Tracy Taylor.
It's nice to meet you. Thanks for being here, Bill. City council members work as a team but may not always agree. How do you approach collaboration with colleagues who have different views, and how would you ensure productive conversations that lead to solutions?
Oh, that's a great question. We were just talking about that in the back room. I really believe that we don't have to agree on everything. I think that the way that we move forward is by listening to each other, really listening to each other, really trying to understand each other and to respect each other's opinions. On the Planning Commission, there have been times when I've been actually the lone voice opposing something or having a problem with something. And I say my piece, and then we talk about it, and then we make a decision and we move forward. And the majority rules, and that's fine. So I think you can disagree with people and have good conversations with them, but at the end of the day, you still need to find a way forward where you can work together. And if you have mutual respect, I don't think that's hard.
Councilmember Trout Manuel.
Thank you, Mayor. Hello, Bill. Welcome. Mine is short. Why did you decide to apply for this open position?
Yeah, that's also a great question. I thought about it a lot. So when I moved to Auburn, I knew I really wanted to be involved in the community. I wanted to. My business career didn't allow me to do that for much of. It was too demanding for much of my life. So I started looking for ways to be involved. So I applied and was asked to join the Planning Commission, which has been a great experience. But I feel like I could do more city council. And so I'd say through my experience at the Planning Commission, and also we have a booth at the farmer's market for our nursery. And I've met so many people in Auburn, such a great cross-section of people. And that's also just really given me a strong love for the community. And so I think I could be effective.
Thank you.
Next is Councilmember Clinton Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Bill. Thank you for being here this evening. If we were to talk with any of your past colleagues or employers or employees, what could we expect to hear them say about you in regards to how you work well with others or how you work with others?
Oh, yeah, that's the better question, isn't it? I believe what they would tell you is that I, as a coworker, I'm supportive, but not afraid to disagree, but always to find a way forward that through mutual respect, where we can still work together. The people I've managed, many of them are still in contact with me. Many of them I helped kind of climb up the ladder. I think they'd say I was a very supportive and understanding boss who tried to see the best in people and tried to really pull them up. And my managers, I think, would say I was, I came up with new ideas a lot. I pushed the envelope a bit, but always in a way that was supportive for them. But they'd probably say some bad things too.
And finally, Councilmember Ammer.
Hi, Bill. How would you make sure your personal opinion doesn't get in the way of what best for the whole city?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great question. I think that I think there's a tremendous responsibility as a city council person to really understand what the needs and desires of the community are, and that might not always be exactly what I think. And if that's the case, I would absolutely want to do what I believed my constituents wanted. So I think you just have to have a little humility and really understand that.
All right, we have time left for other questions. Council, do any of you have any other questions for Bill? Councilmember Tracy Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor. Bill, council's job is to set policy and not run operations. So how would you go about making a tough policy decision when the community is divided and emotions are high?
I think in a situation like that, I would just work to really understand all of the information. So I would work to listen to people, listen to their concerns, but also really to understand what's going on and understand what I think is best. In the end, I would vote for what I felt was best, but I would make sure that people along the way understood that they were heard and that I explained why, if I wasn't voting the way they wanted, that they understood why I wasn't.
Other questions, Council? No? All right. Oh, Councilmember Clinton Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor. I know there was a question that Councilmember Child Manuel asked, so I hope this doesn't sound similar to that, but was why did you decide to apply for this opening position? But I want to ask, why now?
Yeah, I think there's a few reasons. One, I've been in Auburn long enough to really kind of understand the city now, but also in this current climate that we live in as a country, I think it's important that there's visibility for people, for all parts of diversity. So as an openly gay man, I think that brings some diversity to the city council, and it's a signal to the LGBT community that this is a place where they are embraced.
Other questions, council? Councilmember Baldwin.
Thank you, Mayor. And this one hopefully isn't too tough, but it's more about how you think through things. If appointed as a council member, you would be responsible for activities like approving and/or rejecting ordinances and resolutions. Please walk us through the process for how you would evaluate proposed legislation in order to vote on it.
Sure. So first, I would thank you for that question. I would first learn about it. So, on the Planning Commission, I get big packets of information, probably not as big as you guys get before your meetings, and I study it, and I read it, and I really try to make sure that I understand it, because I think that's the job. That's what you sign up for. So, I think that's what I would do. I would make sure that I understood it. I'd ask questions if I didn't, and I'd ask, and I have asked on Planning Commission if changes, if there is a possibility for changes when there's something that doesn't seem quite right. But I really get into those decks, and I'm the guy who says on in Appendix 9 on page 89, there's this graph, and I don't understand why water rates are going to go up 87% over the next 8 years.
Very good. Thank you.
Councilmember Tracy Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor. Bill, what do you believe is the role of a city council member, and how do you see that role fitting into the overall structure of city government, particularly with the mayor and other city staff?
Oh, that's also a great question. So I think you guys have talked about it. The role of the council is to set policy and not to execute. And I think the mayor oversees execution. So I think that's a bit of a difference. So I think that as a city council member, you have to understand that staff is doing their job and that they need their space. So I would concentrate on policy and on what I think would be best for Auburn.
Thank you. Other questions, council? Councilmember Trout-Manuel.
Bill, this position is supposed to be part-time, and we do have a lot of ribbon cuttings and other meetings and stuff that we have to do. I can't remember, did you say you work full-time?
We have a nursery, a plant nursery. We're open only on Friday and Saturday, and then we're at the farmer's market on Sundays. So it is not a full-time job.
So it'll be flexible, you'll be able to.
I have a very flexible schedule, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Other questions, council? All right. Well, Bill, if you have any final thoughts that you would like to share, we would love to hear them.
I'll just say once again, thank you for considering me. I'm very humbled by the fact that you would consider me, and I'm especially having met the other candidates in the back room. So good luck with your decision. I think there's some great people. So thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Council, do you need a break? 5-minute break? That'd be great. Okay, Sean, we're going to recess for 5 minutes. We will come back at 6:41. Council, if you need restrooms, please don't go back. That is correct. All right. Nope, 2 more. Nope. Adib. Adib is next.
Questions are printed here for you, so you can read them on. Go ahead and leave those.
Good evening.
Hello.
So the process, and first of all, thank you for being here. The process will be you have 5 minutes for opening comments, and at the end of that time, if at 4 minutes, if you still have comments, I'll go like this, that you have 1 minute left, and at the 5 minute mark, I'll go like this. And then we will move on to 20, sorry, yeah, it's 25 total. 20 minutes of Q&A. There are 6 scripted questions that you should have in front of you so that you can follow along. And then if there is time left, we'll go to on-the-floor questions. And then if there's time after that, for you to have closing remarks.
Perfect.
All right. And so please feel free. Oh, and also the clock will be moving over here as well if you want to look over at it. But like I say, I will keep you at 4 and at the end mark. So please feel free to start whenever you're ready.
All right. Well, hi, everyone, and thanks for the opportunity to speak with you today. And I truly appreciate the time it has taken to put this process together and go through it. It's a very concise process. So my name is Adib, and I've spent most of my career in public works, in public service, because I believe in local government and improving lives, and that's where most of the change happens. I serve as the utility program manager at the city of Tukwila, so working on water, sewer, stormwater, other infrastructure, and it includes managing capital improvement projects, consultants, regulatory compliance, and a lot of cross-departmental collaboration that's needed. Before that, I had worked in an engineering on the public side, private side before switching to the public side. But throughout that whole journey on the private side, I always worked with municipalities and districts, other regional partners, and I truly believe that planning at that level is where a lot of the change happens. My passion for public service started long before my career. When I was in high school civics class, one of our assignments was to attend a council meeting, and that's where I was really moved by all the changes and the projects and everything that's happening at that local level. And since then, I've tried to get involved. And so in Tukwila, besides just my job, I also represent the city at the Metropolitan Water Pollution Abatement Advisory Committee. That's part of the wastewater for King County, and each municipality has a representative there, and it's great attending those meetings. I also have been attending Cascade Water Alliance meetings as one of the staff reps for the city, and it's very informative. I get to, through those spaces, cross paths with a lot of elected officials and people that actually make the change. And it's genuinely inspiring seeing all the even incremental changes that over time become much bigger changes happen at that level. And that's exactly the type of team I would look forward to working with if I was appointed here at council. Outside of my former role, I'm also involved with the American Water Works Association, which really focuses on water infrastructure, and the American Public Works Association. A lot of the municipalities, no matter what type of structure they have on the elected side, they will have some kind of public works and infrastructure, and it's great being involved in that. I'm also part of the ICMA, and I've attended the PSRC, the regional council meetings, virtually. I've never been in person. They're typically during the day when I'm working, so I don't really get to see them much, but that's definitely something I would be open to participating in if I get enough of a heads up to be able to flex my schedule. I'm also a member of 2 labor unions, and I volunteer my time to make sure the ethical changes they want to see happen and continue to happen that also affects the public service continues to exist. And I do give blood regularly. It's not much of a it's not much of a difference maker, but on the local level, it's really great to, especially seeing the same people that travel around and have the blood banks. And then working with youth, I've started since I was before high school, and working as a guidance counselor, and then working currently as a high school coach for the past 5 years. It's really great seeing all these unsure teenagers coming there and then graduating as confident adults. One of the traits I really like about being here is that I would bring a spirit of collaboration. None of this would happen without being able to collaborate as a group and make things happen. So I'm open to differing opinions, and that's how things get done. And at the end of the day, I deeply care about this region and its people, and I truly believe that I'm even more ready now with stronger understanding of Auburn's priorities and clearer grasp of my own strength as public servant. So thank you again for considering me. I'd be honored to serve and to support the great work you've already started.
Thank you. All right, we'll get Sean to, there we go. We've got the 20 minutes on the clock now. And we will begin with Deputy Mayor Rakes.
Thank you, Mayor. It's good to see you, Adib. The 3 major items that came up in the application process were juvenile crime, homelessness, public safety. Other than those 3 things, what would you like to bring forward to council to address?
Absolutely. Those are very important items that I've followed the progress you've all made over time, and they're great. Besides that, we are a very growing city that even in a short period we've almost doubled, and that infrastructure and the funding for it, even on a local, federal level, the housing related to that infrastructure growth, and then the business development is a big issue that's not going to go away. Whether it's infrastructure underground or above ground, it's aging, and not funding it is not going to stop it from aging. So finding a way where we can divert funds or find and lobby for more funds on a state, local, and on a regional, federal level, whether it's grants or trust funds, it's very important to make sure the city continues to grow as the numbers increase.
Thank you. Councilmember Baldwin.
Thank you, Mayor. And I might say anyone who's been the recipient of your blood donations may find it very important. But my question is this. If appointed as a council member, you would have the power to bring substantial change to Auburn. Please describe the steps you would take if you wanted to update existing Auburn City Code or policies.
It's a great question. I don't want to say me, because this is a full council that works together and updates the code. So it's definitely an internal conversation mixed with a lot of cross-departmental conversations internally and externally, seeing what other cities have done, where have they been successful, where have they failed, and learn from their failures. There's nothing wrong with failing as long as you learn from it. So it's an ongoing conversation, and like I mentioned before, it would have to be incremental. The code book is a very large set of codes, and nobody's going to be able to change all of it. You're going to have to focus either on a department or on something, whether it's housing you're trying to solve. So what codes related to housing you're able to change to make sure whether it's affordability that you're after or safety or whatever hard decision that you need to make, so you're able to more concisely and successfully change a part of it and then build on it over the years, whether it's new council members or the same council members working on it.
Councilmember Tracy Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor. City council members work as a team but may not always agree. How do you approach collaboration with colleagues who have different views, and how would you ensure that productive conversations lead to solutions?
Yeah, absolutely. I would hope there's disagreements, because without disagreements, then we're only serving that one set of people and we all agree and then everybody else is ignored. Now, collaboration comes in when you see those disagreements and you don't take it personally. It's a conversation that all of us are having because we care about the residents we're serving, and everybody might have a different view about solving the same issue, but that goal is to solve that problem. So it's important to be respectful, no matter, even if somebody is offending you. It's really important to be respectful, whether it's a peer or a resident or anybody else, staff member. We're all people that are trying to make a difference, and we're all doing it at different levels of the municipality that we're in. So it's really important to listen to each other, try and see the other side, and it's okay not to disagree and still be colleagues and respectful friends if possible. Thanks.
Councilmember Trout Manuel. Microphone, please.
I keep forgetting, sorry. Mine is a small question. Why did you decide to apply for this opening position?
Yeah, it's the smallest, but the most loaded. Thank you for the question. It's, first of all, it felt right. I've applied for the position when it was contested a couple of years ago, and it was a great experience, even though I did not make it. It was really important to see what you've all had to go through to be where you are, and I had a newfound respect for a lot of the steps that are really behind the scene that nobody hears about. You put your name, then you end up on council or not. Nobody hears about the in-between, and that's something that it really gave me that focus on how I could make a difference and why now. Why is it important right now? Because you can always say tomorrow, and it's at some point you have to take that step and start somewhere. And it's a council that I believe has done a lot of good things and continues to do good things, and I'd like to be part of continuing that good path and good progress. And I don't know if it might not be a question later, but I'll bring it up. Part of the application had stated that would I want to run if I am appointed, and that was a tough question. There wasn't a maybe or depends. It was either yes or no, and I selected yes, but it's important to know as council members that whoever's stepping into that position is not using it as a platform for their own gain. So if it's a position where it's a deal breaker if somebody is running for it, I would happily change my stance on it because I'm looking to help council now. The need is now. I don't know what happens by next year. So it's why now? Because it feels right, and there's a lot of expertise that I could bring where I'm comfortable presenting to a lot of councils. I've done it regularly the past 5-6 years, and I think people need somebody who has seen both sides of it, and I've seen both sides of council, and it's an important question to ask. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Councilmember Clinton Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor. Welcome, Adib. Did I say that right?
Perfect.
Thank you. If we were to talk with any of your past colleagues or employers, what could we expect to hear from them to say about you in regards to how you work with others?
Yeah, I'm great at collaborating, but I'll back that up with saying that working on capital projects, it's really hard to do anything on your own. Nobody does it. There's a contractor who does the building. There's a consultant who does the design. So you're getting all these people from different parts of the state or country sometimes, and they have very different views. So that collaboration takes a lot of effort, and again, a lot of respect is needed because you need to see somebody else's point of view, and some people cannot elaborate what their point of view is. So I feel like a lot of my colleagues have seen me go through those processes where there's 10, 12 people and there's an agenda that we try to go through and make sure we're on track, but then you have to tailor it to different audiences. How do you phrase it in a way that's not condescending, but it's clear and concise where they get the point from their point of view, while also, if you need to talk to somebody and be more technical, you're able to exude that in a different manner and make sure they understand you and they're not left, because some people want it to be technical, others don't. And that sense of collaboration really carries with any team, not just a council, not just an engineering team, any field, anywhere, at any company or city or municipality, you're going to have to deal with that and make sure you're on track and are heard. If somebody feels heard, they're more likely to restate their question instead of just kind of shy away and not get involved. And that's something that's really important, that we should be aware of how residents feel. Same thing when we collaborate with other partners in the region and we're able to, in a way, advocate for what you've done so residents know and they feel heard, even though you're trying to do what they asked for. If they don't hear the result, they're going to assume nobody's listening to them.
Councilmember Ammer.
Hi, Adib.
Hi.
The last question. How would you make sure your personal opinion doesn't get in the way of what's best for the whole city?
Absolutely. And that's great. I touched on it a little bit when I mentioned that whether I run again or not is something that really should be up to council, and I'm happy to go either way. My personal opinion is for my growth myself. So opinion is important, and that's something that should be discussed, and it should be acknowledged, and being aware of whether it's a biased opinion or it's based on fact. That's something that people should call others on, and making sure you're on track, you're getting things accomplished, but at the same time, you need to acknowledge what the big goal is. You need to know, are you helping the citizens? Is this one issue that you're devoting your entire energy, is that really helping most of the city, or is it just helping your neighborhood? Those are very important distinctions that need to happen, because it's easy to get caught in that web of, well, this is the most important goal, and I'm going to stay with it until I get done. Priorities change, and so should opinions, and that's okay. We live in a city that's growing a lot, and that's great, but if our opinions and what we care about doesn't grow and doesn't change, then we're not really growing with the city.
Thank you. All right, Adib, that's the end of the structured questions, scripted ones. So, Council, do any of you have any additional questions for Adib? Councilmember Baldwin and then Councilmember Tracy Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor. My additional question is, if you are appointed as a council member, you would be responsible for activities like approving and or rejecting ordinances and resolutions. Please walk us through the process for how you would evaluate proposed legislation in order to vote on it.
Perfect. So I've looked at a lot of resolutions and ordinances. I've been part of at least 3 biennial budgets with the city of Tukwila. I didn't oversee the full budget. It's very different seeing it from a council member point of view. You get the whole few hundred pages of budget. I don't think it's a budget year this year, but even then, without it being a budget year, it's not like the federal government. There's no debt. You need to balance the budget. And if there's amendments, things need to change by the end of the year to make that happen. So with ordinances, it's a very similar process where you need to read it. You need to be comfortable with it. And if you're not, ask questions. It's okay to ask questions. Sometimes other council members or maybe somebody has a similar ordinance that's written a little bit better in a different city or district, and you extract that and see what that point of view is, and then the staff that are presenting it, they're going to have their point of view. So making sure when they're viewing it and reading it, are they interpreting it in a different way than you're seeing it? So having that conversation, whether it's during council or you ask an administrator or a director to send an email for clarification, you need to be aware and clear on what you're voting or proposing or bringing forward before you give it the thumbs up.
Thank you.
Councilmember Tracy Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, sometimes what's popular and what's right doesn't always match up. So how do you decide which way to vote when you're being pulled in both directions?
It's difficult because sometimes you feel like you need to keep the peace and go the popular way, but that's not right. Maybe there's a scenario where somebody might feel that it is, but then you're doing the wrong thing. You're not going the popular way. It shouldn't be popular versus right. It really should be wrong versus right. And even though it's a lot of the voting here that you all do isn't right and wrong, it's a gray area. It's, do we pull this way or that way a little bit more? So again, it goes back to the resolutions, and when you're reviewing something, are you passionate about it because there's a personal opinion that's tying you to it, or is it truly something that's going to benefit the whole city and nobody else sees it? Usually the majority sees it in a setting like this, so it's not necessarily wrong. That might be more of a biased opinion. If everybody's going against me, I might say everybody's voting because they think that's a popular vote and not voting the right way. But it's good to take a step back and make sure, from my point of view, is that a biased point of view of everybody else, or are they actually wrong? Could be either way. It's really scenario dependent.
Other questions, council? All right. Adib, we do have, we have almost 5 minutes left. If you have any closing remarks that you would like to share.
Yeah, thank you. Again, thank you for being here. Thank you for your time. And it's tough being here after you've probably had a full day. So again, thank you. And I did want to bring up, I don't know if it's a question, if you're allowed to answer, but again, if it matters whether I run or not in May, that's something I'm definitely open with. I am flexible. I understand you need a placeholder. I think I could be that because I'm familiar with a lot of the behind the scene of a municipality. I know every city is different, so there's always a learning curve. I just don't think I would have much of a learning curve here. And if it's something that you're open to or it's not a big deal, I would not use this platform as for a campaign or any personal opinions. I do care about the city, and I would be happy to serve it in any way that is needed. And I would happily leave the rest of the time, too, if there's any other questions, maybe questions that you just thought of and you hadn't thought of before. Happy to answer anything.
Final opportunity, council? All right. Adib, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
I promise I'm not going to read it.
That's okay. You can read if you want to.
Oh, I'll pass.
Okay. Well, John, thank you for being here this evening. Thank you for your interest in the position for the City Council. I know it's not new to you. We'll start out this evening. You have 5 minutes for opening comments. And then if you are running, if at 4 minutes you are still in comments, I'll go like this so you know that you have 1 minute left. And if at 5 minutes, I'll go like that. And then we will move on to the 20 minutes of scripted questions that the council has. And if there is time left after those 6 questions, it will be opened up for additional questions. And if there's time after that, you will have an opportunity for closing remarks. Okay. All right? And you can begin anytime you would like.
Thank you, Council, for your time. I appreciate it. I moved with my family to Auburn in 1957. I went to 3rd grade here at Terminal Park. Not the new Terminal Park, not the remodeled Terminal Park, the old original Terminal Park. Mrs. Strand was my 3rd grade teacher, and the first book I ever read in my life was Zip Zip Goes to Mars. I've pretty much been reading ever since. I'm a bit of an egghead, and in 1957, the Auburn train roundhouse was still here, brick roundhouse, and they still had steam engines that worked. And there were 12,000 people in Auburn in 1957. I had to research that. That is not from memory. And the only reason I say that is things change. And that's where you as City Council, your most important function is you're setting policy for the city. And you're helping the city adjust to the changes that are going on. We're almost 100,000 people now. We're made up of a tremendously diverse population. Well, this has been my home for basically my entire life. I've chosen to raise my family here, and now I'm retired here. So that's about, well, that's me. This is my hometown, and I'm incredibly proud to be from Auburn. This is a town that's home to me. And so the only things I want to do is assist the city council in the policy for the last 6-7 months of Larry Brown's career. And then we'll have an election, and the citizens of Auburn will decide who will fill that seat. Right now, I'll sit in for my friend Larry Brown, who called me the other day and said he was going to resign for reasons of health. I had hoped that my dear friend Larry would be able to finish out his term. He wasn't. He was putting his health as a priority. And I was happy to help him try and finish his term. I'm also happy to help him finish his term, but I will not be standing for election come November.
Thank you, John. All right, first question after Sean is able to reset the clock. There we go. All right, first question comes from Deputy Mayor Rakes.
Thank you, John. My question is, the 3 major items that came up on the application process were juvenile crime, homelessness, public safety. Other than those 3 things, what else would you like to bring forward to the council to address?
Well, my highest priorities are planning. You heard me talk about a 12,000 population town, and we're nearly 100,000. Mayor Nancy Backus and I disagree. I think we're at 100,000 already, but that's neither here nor there. But planning for that growth is so important. we are not going to remain at 80,000, 90,000, 100,000, and our population mix is going to shift and change, and we as a council have to adapt. So planning, right up there at the top. We have to keep pace. Roads, sidewalks, sewer, water. Not really exciting stuff, but to have a good, healthy community, those are my priorities. Budgeting. I'm a budget guy. You know that I'm a retired police officer, but I was an administrator police officer, and I was concerned about budgets. I managed budgets. I put them together. If I want to know the personality of a city, I go to their library and I check out their budget and I look at their budget and I'll know the personality. I'll know what they value in that community. And I want to be part of that, helping that budget process. The city of Auburn has a biennial budget every 2 years. So our contributions as a council are every 2 years. The budget stuff that we do every month is money that's already been spent. There's not much we can do. That's why it's on the consent agenda. The money's already been spent according to the budget that council cast every other year. So that's important to me, is to keep that organized. And then my third most important priority is the business, particularly the small business owners, the local business owners. If I spend $1 at a box store, a big nationally known box store, not much of that dollar remains in Auburn. If I spend it at Joe Smith's boutique on Main Street, some of that dollar comes back in donations to charities in my community. Perhaps as much as 70% of that dollar stays in my community of Auburn. So to me, that small business owner is a priority for me. Main Street, and as the city expands, those small business opportunities, terribly important to me.
Next is Councilmember Baldwin.
Thank you, Mayor. Welcome.
Thank you.
And my question is, if appointed as a council member, you would have the power to bring substantial change to Auburn. Please describe the steps you would take if you wanted to update existing Auburn City Code or policies.
As a council member, and excuse me if I drop back and forth when I use a collective we, I've sat up there for 8 years, and it's been 4 years since I've been up there, but I will drop back and forth. So if I get the tense wrong, my apologies. But as a council member, you have 1/7 of an opinion. Your vote, deputy mayor's vote, and your vote, all the same. We have one. None of us can speak for the city or the city council. It has to pass by a majority of council members before it becomes something that we can say is the policy. We have an important function. We set policy for the city, and we do the budget. I've covered the budget already, so we'll talk about policy. And a lot of times we look at it as being, I'd like to say this is what I believe, but I can't because I'm a member of 7. And 4 of us must vote for something in order for that to become policy. This doesn't give recognition to the minority opinion on council. Sometimes that minority opinion is more important than the majority opinion. And the reason for this is we do our deliberation in public, on TV, on the interwaves, and part of our form of government is that we have those discussions, that deliberation in public, not in private. And if I am a citizen watching that debate go on, I want to hear my opinion shared on that forum with other people up there. So there may be somebody with a minority opinion, but I hear it, oh yeah, that's what I believe. Then once the vote's taken, if I'm majority or minority, I can now speak, this is the council's opinion. And even if I were in the minority opinion, it's still council's position. I go from minority to being the majority's decision is mine as a council. I have to take the group's decision. Now then, I spent most of my adult life attending court. And there was a prosecutor and there was a defense attorney, and they'd argue like heck, each giving their side the best they could. And hopefully what came out of that was justice. But as soon as the matter was resolved, they'd go have lunch together. It's not a football game. This is how governments work. And we have a adversarial system where we have to argue in public and we have to be comfortable in that argument and in that debate, but it's not personal. And I'm absolutely convinced we get better decisions in that process than we would who wins or who loses. Who wins are the citizens of Auburn.
And we'll go to Councilmember Tracy Taylor, and just for a time check, you have 12 minutes left. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 more questions.
I'm sorry, I'm a little verbose.
Just want you to know what your time is.
John, thanks for being here. City council members work together as a team but may not always agree. So how do you approach collaboration with colleagues who have different views, and how would you ensure productive conversations lead to solutions?
Well, partly answered already.
I know, right?
It's important that we have that debate in public. No back rooms, no private conversations. It's conducted out here in front of everybody. And it's in that conversation where the public can say, oh yeah, that's how I feel and I'm being represented. Then if the majority rules otherwise, there's no hard feelings. I'm not negatively attacking you. I'm attacking a point of view and trying to get that out. I have an obligation to listen to somebody that has a different, listen respectfully to that other person's difference. I've honestly tried to change an opinion based on what one of my colleagues is saying. If that's not possible, then I vote according to my conscience, my intellect, my heart. But afterwards, that shouldn't affect how I care for that individual. It's just how this works. The same as that prosecutor and that defense attorney.
Councilmember Trout Manuel.
John, welcome. It's always nice to see you. I had the opportunity to work with you, and you answered those questions very accurate. But my question is, and you already answered it also, but why did you decide to apply for this open seat?
Mainly because Larry Brown asked me. And then the other reason comes from a gentleman by the name of Armand Hammer. Not the baking soda guy, but the CEO, the late CEO of Occidental Petroleum, very wealthy guy. He was a medical doctor, but he never practiced medicine. And he said that he thought there was no better use for a human life than to wear it out in the service of other people. I've been a servant all my life, and I couldn't think of a better use of it than in my hometown, which I love, and serving my hometown. I'm kind of a upside down manager instead of this pyramid with some guy at the top dictating down. We flip the pyramid over, and my job is to support other people.
Councilmember Clinton Taylor.
Good evening, sir.
It's nice to see a guy.
Yeah, we got to stick together, right? So my question, if we were to talk with any of your past colleagues or maybe employees or employers, what could we expect to hear them say about you and how you work well with others, or how you work with others, I should say. I'm sorry.
Well, there are a few that are going to say that I'm a SOB. I retired as a police captain, and sometimes I was a disciplinarian. The job called for it. But I would hope they would say I was fair and that I listened. And I believe in other people. It's not my job to dictate how you do the job, but it's my job to give you assistance when you ask for it. I can delegate everything but responsibility. I can delegate the authority. I can delegate the tools to use it. And if it goes well, I have to give you back kudos for doing the job. The one thing I can't delegate is that responsibility. So if it goes to heck in a handbasket, guess what? It's still my responsibility. That's the burden of leadership, is that you're not there to take the credit and the bows. You're there to take the responsibility, the sticks and stones. You're there to assist other people succeed. I hope that's what they would say. I have people that I worked with 30 plus years ago that I still write and communicate with. I think they still call me friend. And whether I was their superior or whether I was their subordinate, I think the friendship comes very high up there, but the friendship can't get in the way of what's right and what's proper. Thank you.
And finally, Councilmember Ammer.
Hi. And the last question. How would you make sure your personal opinion doesn't get in the way of what's best for the whole city?
Ethics. You have to have a strong sense of what's right and what's wrong. When I was a young kid, right out of college, had a very privileged background, came out of college, I'm 21, 22 years old, and I joined the police department, and I didn't know nothing about being a cop, about being part of a community. And I was very privileged to have a wonderful mentor. We call them FTOs, field training officers, who took me under his wing, saw something in me that he wanted to nurture. His name was Abner Thomas, and Abner became my second dad, and he was the godfather of both my children. And he basically said things very simply. If it's right, it's right. If it's wrong, it's wrong. If it's right and nobody believes it's right, it's still right. If it's wrong and everybody thinks it's it's still wrong. Pretty simple. And he also would say, if you do the wrong thing, you're not worth two dead flies. Abner was from West Texas.
Flies are big there.
A lot of dead flies there.
All right, that's the end of these questions. Council members, do any of you have another question for John? Councilmember Baldwin.
Thank you, Mayor. So, if appointed as a council member, you would be responsible for activities like approving and or rejecting ordinances and resolutions. Please walk us through the process for how you would evaluate proposed legislation in order to vote on it.
I'll tell you the process that I do is I diagram the sentences. I read it first, then I diagram it. What exactly is being said here? Frequently, if I have a discomfort with it, I'll seek guidance from the city attorney. Make sure that I am reading and getting the correct meaning out of it. And then you start applying your own what is this going to do for my city? And now the important part is we sit down in this open forum and I hear your opinion. We listen to one another. I make my proposals and I try and take in, is there something that I'm missing on this, or is there something that I'm contributing? And in that process of deliberation, I'll make up my mind, yes, no, and I vote my conscience, and then once we've have it voted, then that is our opinion as a council, but not until that time. And it's just basically keeping an open mind and making sure I understand the ordinance. There's a real danger of unintended consequences. I'll tell a quick little story. We had a community group come into council once and say, this lady has a truck that parks in front of her house and she's wheelchair bound and she can't see the children going to and from school. That's her only joy. You need to pass an ordinance to prohibit trucks from parking in front of her house. And that sounded like a reasonable thing to do. And we passed it with record time. Do you remember how long that took to pass?
Not very long.
2 sessions. And then it turned out we didn't put enough thought into that. And all of a sudden, people were calling saying, I got a ticket for parking in front of my own house with my truck. And we made it impossible to park a GMC Hummer in front of a person's own house. So legislation on the city level or at any government level necessitates caution and thorough thought. So don't want to rush into those things.
Any other questions, council? John, you've got 42 seconds. Would you like any final closing comments?
Thank you. I appreciate your time on this special session. I know you all have other things to do, and I appreciate the honor of getting to sit here before you.
Thank you, John. All right, Sean will switch. Yes, so John, you'll stay out here unless you have things in the back that you need to get. You do? Okay, so if you want to follow Sean back there, she's going to bring all of the candidates back out here, and then council will move to, so let me read it. The city council will adjourn. Well, first of all, council, maybe I should ask you, do you want an executive session? All right. The city council will adjourn into executive session per RCW 42.30.110 sub 1 sub H to evaluate the qualifications of a candidate for appointment to elective office. However, any interview of such candidate and final action appointing a candidate to elective office shall be in a meeting open to the public. The length of time for the executive session is, I'm going to start with 15 minutes. And so we'll give it a minute or two for us to get back there. Welcome back. Yes, I'm going to add a few minutes because for a break. So I will give us 5 minutes for a break and then 15 minutes for the first part of an executive session. We will adjourn until 7:51. Right, we will call the meeting back to order. And I thank all of you for your patience and for waiting. I want to tell you a little bit about what the process is going to be now. In the executive session, the council were talking about qualifications. We did not talk about, I like this candidate, I like that candidate. That type of discussion must be taking place out here on the council floor. So in that room, there was talk of each candidate's qualifications. Now that we are out on council floor, council can deliberate. But the first thing would be for a motion to nominate a candidate for consideration. That does not mean only one candidate can be nominated. There does not need to be a second for that nomination. So in reality, there could, because there are 6 council members here and there are 6, actually there are 7 council, you do have the opportunity to consider the applicant that was not here this evening, Angela. So there could be 6 nominations from the dais. And then there would be a motion for nominations to be closed. And at that point, council can make comments on the qualifications and the applicants, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Mayor.
All right. So now that we are back, are there any nominations for candidates to consider? Councilmember Ammer?
I nominate John Hallman.
Thank you. Councilmember Taylor?
I nominate candidate Lisa Sturgis for consideration.
Thank you. Councilmember Baldwin?
I would nominate candidate Erica Thomas.
Thank you. Councilmember Trout Manuel?
I would nominate.
Your microphone, please.
I would nominate Adib Otola.
All right. Are there any other nominations? All right. Is there a motion to close nominations? Councilmember Taylor?
I move nominations to be closed, Mayor.
Thank you. All right, and just to make sure that we, oh, that's right. Is there a second? Deputy Mayor?
I'll second that, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Taylor, did you have any comments to make about your motion?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. First off, thank you to all of you that applied and were here tonight. You provided some excellent and thoughtful answers to the questions. We appreciate your time and your commitment to the city of Auburn. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. Are there any other comments? Councilmember Ammer?
We had over 40 applications for this position, and we interviewed 6 of you. I want to say, may not everyone know that when we had the opening last time, I applied, it didn't make it where you are. But guess what? I file and I run. So I hope people don't take it personally, but I want to allow everybody to get real. I need the community real. I want to give the community real choice, not hand somebody an advantage. That's my main reason. I like everybody. It was so hard, but that's why I decided to make my nomination.
Thank you. All right. All those in favor of closing Councilmember Clinton Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to echo what my colleagues said. 2 years ago, a couple of us were sitting in that seat, and then tonight, all of you are way more than qualified for the position. Unfortunately, there could only be one. And yeah, so I just want to thank you for first stepping up to apply, and then 2, for your love for this city and this community. And yeah, I just really appreciated getting to know all of you a little bit better. It's one thing to read it on a piece of paper, but then it's another thing to actually sit and have a conversation with you. And we don't take lightly what you bring to this city. I can say to you personally, I'm proud to have you as one of my neighbors in this city, and look forward to seeing you out in the community. So again, thank you for being here tonight and stepping up to serve your city.
Thank you. Councilmember Trout Manuel.
I wanted to echo the same thing. Thank you, every one of you. We are not taking this very lightly. All the applicants were wonderful, and just taking the time to come out and apply for it, it takes a lot. It takes a commitment and your love for your city. So thank you very much.
Any other comments? All right, all those in favor of closing nominations, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say no. The applications are closed. And now the process, as I mentioned, Council, each of you gets one vote. I'm going to take these in the order that we received the nomination. So first will be John Holman. Second will be Lisa. And then we will have Erica and Adib. All right? And let me make sure I have all of the names so I'm not getting them out of order. Sorry. All right. All those in favor of John Holman as the newly appointed council member, please raise your hand and keep it raised up high so we can be seen. All right. 1. All those in favor of Lisa Sturgis, please raise your hand. 1, 2. All those in favor of Erica Thomas, please raise your hand. 1. And all those in favor of Adib Al-Talal, please raise your hand. 1, 2. All right. Sean, I see that we have a tie between Lisa Sturgis and Adib Am I saying that right, Al-Talal? Adib? Am I saying your last name Al-Talal? Okay, thank you.
Yes, Mayor.
I hate mispronouncing names. All right. So, Council, your prior vote is now gone. We have 2 applicants still in the running, Lisa Sturgis and Adib Al-Talal. So I am going to call first for votes for Lisa Sturgis. Please raise your hand and keep it raised. 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you. All those for Adib Al-Talal. 1, 2. All right, by my vote, Sean, or by my recording, I did not vote. By my recording of the vote, Lisa Sturgis has been appointed by council as the newest council member.
Yes, Mayor.
And as stated by many of the council members up here, thank you all for your willingness to serve. Some of you know it is not an easy job. It can be a thankless job. It can take a lot of time. And each of you were willing to give that to the community that you live in and that you love. And that does not go unnoticed. Many of you are currently serving on boards and commissions in the city or have served in the past. We could not make it without people like you who are willing to step up, step in, and put yourselves out there for this process tonight and for in the Planning Commission. I know how thick those packets are. They're thicker many times than the council packets are. So to read addendum number 9, page 87 in the graph is amazing. To look at all of the applications for human services grants and to determine with heart and soul and passion who should and should not be funded in this community, that is nothing short of amazing. To have served on this council for 8 glorious years in some very challenging times, and to be willing to step up because your friend asked and to serve for this community is also so commendable. And to run for this position and to come back and want to be a part of this council and to continue to contribute your technical expertise and your passion for this city is also commendable. The council and the city could not go wrong with any one of you in this position. And I do hope that you consider running for this fall, because we could use people like you on this council. We could use you on this council to make sure that the residents of Auburn are served well. So thank you all very much. In fact, council, let's give them all a round of applause. And I know none of you will be strangers because you're not already. So I do believe that is the final thing on the agenda this evening. Since it's a special council meeting, nothing can be added. With that, congratulations, Council Member Select Sturgis. We are adjourned.